So, here we are again, fellow tubers. A year has passed in the blink of an eye, over the course of a whole decade. It's been crazy. My grandparents sold the home I practically grew up in. I learned to drive, receiving my first driver's license at way too darn old. Went on a trip to California to see relatives I've barely seen in the last 10 years. Started up this YouTube channel. Amidst it all, played some pretty darn good games. Unfortunately, mismanaged time, just being on the road a lot without a backup plan for games on the backlog, and some of these games being absurdly long has led to a shorter list of games for me to pull from. While I could have made the traditional top 10, I felt the list's quality would suffer if I tried to go for the full 10, so I'm shortening it to my favorite number, 8. As per any list like this, these are games I actually managed to play and finish in 2018. And while I very much wish I could have put Octopath Traveler or Spider-Man on here, I'm sad to say I just didn't get to them. Truth be told, this is another last year's games catch-up session, with a little bit of old classics interspersed for good measure. Now let's get this over with before we get any farther into the new year. Even as I write this video, I'm still realizing just how many game, movie, and even book purchases I've made in the last 10 years from online word-of-mouth advertisement. Case in point, I might not have played this game in a million years. If Fawful's Minion could ever stop gushing about it. I tried to satiate my latent interest by watching Let's Plays, but even after watching I Memorized Bulbapedia Chugga Conroy apply the same level of insight to every little detail of this game's world and gameplay, I still felt drawn to it enough to want to play it for myself. So, carrying on the running gag from last year's video, in the same year that Luigi's Mansion 3 was announced, I played the first game. Can't say the inverted tank controls did the game any favors, but the basic idea of startling a species whose whole gimmick is to scare people and capitalizing on that opening to suck them up is a pretty satisfying and really nuanced take on ghost busting, with the flashlight's range of effectiveness, the tension-based tug of war for the portrait ghosts, the back and forth waggles who wear ghosts down quicker, and the boos who sort of do their own thing rather than being magnetized to poltergeist, becoming more of a positioning challenge. I'm also kind of a sucker for exploring architecture with real-world scaling, and the secondary objective of collecting cash to build a real mansion gives me enough incentive to pay full attention. Luigi's Mansion was my palate cleanser finale of the year when I ran out of time to play anything else, and despite the aggravating final boss, it was a cozy place to relax as 2018 shifted to 2019. Here's hoping I can rearrange furniture in 3.
Number 7.
One of my favorite games of all time comes from Nintendo letting another company make a very different take on one of their big IPs. Rabbids Kingdom Battle is not that game. The game just does not take itself seriously enough to compare to the first time Mario fought something so bad Bowser was reduced to an antihero. Still got Peach sneaking out of the castle and gracefully parasailing down though. Only this time, instead of hugs and counseling, she's packing a shotgun. Either way I'm good, cause I get to play XCOM without permadeath or alien invasions. Okay, arguably less horrifying alien invasions. Anyway, I haven't played a lot of SRPGs, and I really appreciate the sense of mobility that positioning adds to the turn-based formula, as well as the nuances enhancing range, AoE, and even melee attacks. Trying to get as many actions into one turn without ending in a terrible position is fun too, but I wish there were more moves to play around with per a character, especially when your party options are so restrictive. Same goes with the puzzle exploration elements, which were a welcome breather after some of the harder fights, but felt disappointingly generic with the blocky presentation and without Mario's signature platforming. At least the atmosphere was solid, with each world gradually building towards its final confrontation, aesthetically, mechanically, and thematically. I especially like how the Mushroom Kingdom's Wonderland inspirations are taken in ridiculous new directions by the merging device, and how the Gothic village leads into a castle, which doubles back into a haunted bayou, all culminating in the best reason to play this game, the introduction of Phantom's ridiculous opera songs, packed with the Rabbids' meta humor poking fun at the Mario franchise overall. Kingdom Battle is not going to take any spot on my favorite games of all time list, but it was certainly a rabid good time. Alright. Alright, here it is. The reason this is a top 8 and not a top 10. The game that dragged on and on forever with its frustratingly tedious harshness. Fire Emblem Blazing Sword, or Fire Emblem GBA if you prefer. I must have picked this up and put it down 3 times over the years since my brother first bought it. Recently, the resurgence of the franchise caused by Fire Emblem Awakening brought me back. Mostly to finish Lynn's story if nothing else, but because I thought the mechanics were fun, and I figured, I'm a decent gamer, I can work around the permadeath by being careful. Well, I was half right. It was rewarding to at long last see the end of Lynn's story, and there were some surprisingly powerful moments, even after the evil wizards and shadow organizations took away from the grounded political intrigue. Easy contender for best written story I played all year. The highlights, however, really was just how many strategic variables there were to consider, with the myriad of class types, different ranges of effectiveness, mobility to get into those ranges, enemy movement to consider, the support system, weapon triangles, weapons with unique effectivenesses, weapon durability, the semi-finite nature of XP making distribution a real concern, and of course, the whole units that drop to 0 HP are gone for good thing. It's all so much to play around with, and adds so much replayability that even now, frustrated out of my mind by all the times I redid the last few chapters, I'm already thinking about all the ways I might do things differently, and with more focus if I ever play it again. Make no mistake though, I am salty about the amount of time I spent trying to get through the main game without people dying. I might have rated this near number 1 on this list, but because of how punishing it was to experience, I just can't. Number 5. I shall defeat you in the name of justice. Shovel Justice. Shovel Knight is one of those games, you just know the people making it were having way too much fun creating the game they wanted to play as a kid. The Order of No Quarter is full of kooky personalities with memorable designs, and their levels are built on engaging set pieces that involve a lot of clever platforming scenarios foreshadowing their boss fight. The Pogo Shovel is an effective mix of hop and bop and side-scrolling action. As someone who started with arcade games, I am thrilled to ditch the live system for cash drops upon death, and the story of Shovel Knight coming out of retirement to defeat evil despite the loss of his partner and love interest, concluding with the awesome final boss where they teamed up together, was a wonderful twist on the traditional hero and damsel format. That said, as much as I enjoyed Shovel Knight's original campaign, Plague of Torment was so much more fun. The combination of double jump, explode jump, and spontaneous platform generation enables nimble, carefree traversal on most of the places where Shovel Knight had to be careful and patient. It's the closest I've felt to the combination of control and speed available in my favorite platformer, Donkey Kong Country 2. And customizing potion attacks are really nifty for demolishing bosses in record time, even if I never found a combo that really stuck with me. I do have mixed feelings about the affably evil mad scientist cliche, but Plague Knight does legitimately feel like a lovable dork, and his mission to get powerful essences from the other knights while Shovel Knight's story is happening does an admirable job of recontextualizing certain plot holes from Shovel Knight's ending to make more sense. I especially love the evolution of Mona from minigame wench to powerful alchemist with a silly boyfriend. This game didn't unearth the core of my favorite games list, but I certainly dug up some excitement while playing it.
Number 4.
This one hurts. Man, I really expected this to effortlessly top the list. But Dragon Quest Builders just does not live up to its potential. Why are these towns so small? Why are pistons just a gimmicky defense structure? Why is water a persistent part of the world rather than an object? Where's my redstone? And who decided this was acceptable combat? Okay. Rant over. This is still much better than Terraria's ability sandbox. I actually like building things in this game. You get furniture like Terraria, but now it's in 3D. Blueprints are an incredible tool for planning at least the outline of your structure, and the flash of light that happens when you place the correct objects is weirdly exciting. Personally, I found it much safer to build bridges forward and under the player than either Terraria or Minecraft, and it's refreshing that the player's base actually keeps enemies out this time. I love that you can use cladding to turn excess dirt into more useful building materials, and while their use can be fairly situational, shields, ballistas, and cannons are a great way to incorporate building directly into fights. Also, cannons or bombs are way better at mining than their equivalents in Minecraft or Terraria. Towns might be smaller than I wish they were, but different buildings have personality through providing bonuses, including free materials and recovery items. Being based off of a traditional RPG franchise, it's no surprise that story-wise, this game stomps all over Terraria, especially when it comes to NPCs issuing quests. And despite Dragon Quest's recognizably samey character designs, I really grew to like some of these characters and the arcs they went through. The culmination of the quest to create the Batmobile and using it to beat Chapter 3's boss was a highlight of my gaming experiences for the whole year. Lastly, the final boss was an amazing combination of power of friendship saves the day being believable, and an engaging test of the boss fight skills from the first 3 bosses, with a twist that could only work in a buildy sandbox. Honestly, despite its faults, Dragon Quest Builder's story campaign is as good as I could have hoped for in a Minecraft adventure mode, and I can only hope we get more games that improve upon it.
Number 3.
Almost as if I had intended to play some sort of new Mario game before I ran out of time and hard drive space.
So, after that rant, do I think the game lived up to the hype?
Here we go, off the rails. You know it's time to raise our sails. It's freedom like you never knew.
Cha! I haven't felt this giddy playing a Mario game since I first played Thousand Year Door. We have giant sprawling levels full of set pieces that often dynamically shift as the story progresses. Wonky gravity on the moon, but with actual mobility options. And this game even has paintings from Super Mario 64. Mario controls smooth as butter, and Cappy opens up so many logical and skill-based maneuvers without even getting into how the captures organically lend themselves to some memorable set pieces and boss fights. Personal favorite is probably goes to the rematch with the Brutal's mech. Fighting the mech using the Hammer Bros capture instead of the Spearbirds is a bombastic take on the much more technical original fight. It's also awesome that coins are truly worth it in this game. Not only do they replace the life system, but you can buy alternate costumes for Dat Fashion Souls, trophies to decorate the spaceship, and even moons if you can't be bothered anymore. Best of all, grabbing a moon doesn't eject Mario from a stage, and when you are ready to leave, there's a fast travel option to get you around practically instantly between open points on the map. Frankly, I was trying to think of something bad to say to justify it not being number 1, and the only thing I could come up with was the whole wedding thing being a massive anticlimax. Fortunately, we can bleach our brains to that stupidity with the beautifully cheesy Honeymoon Ridge escape theme, while enjoying the best endgame of any Mario 3D platform. Quick spoiler alert. That's right, finishing the main story unlocks more things to do, most of which are the best parts of the game. Peach's Castle is a wonderful kingdom that introduces the best 3D version of Yoshi, Toadette, who has a bunch of achievements to pursue, these moonstones that unlock a whole class of new moons to go get. If you really want to push yourself, there's the boss rush and the previously mentioned mech fight, and the hardest level in the game featuring the second ending. Lastly, once you've done everything the game has to offer, Luigi's Balloon World has the one piece missing from all previous collectathons: PvP hiding of collectibles. Super Mario Odyssey eclipses every past 3D Mario and easily replaces Banjo-Kazooie's spot on my top 10 favorite games.
Number 2.
This is embarrassing. I wrote the rough draft for the script of the next countdown back in 2017, and while writing that script, I had a perspective-changing revelation about this game. I wasn't gonna play it because I'd already seen my brother play it. The setting is too depressing for me, and it's hard. But as I wrote, I realized just how many of my gaming tastes this game satisfies with its mechanics/aesthetics, and I was forced to reevaluate those weak excuses. I mean, already seen it played, didn't keep me from Luigi's Mansion. So what if the story is depressing? Plenty of games I like are depressing. Just ignore the story. And if that gameplay requires a little bit of effort to enjoy, well, I'll just have to get good. Dark Souls is not a franchise I would have gotten into on my own, or without much consideration. It's bleak, understated, and sells itself on challenge. Even once I got started, it took me a bit to hit my stride, because I opted for an archer build. And well, fighting Eudix Gungnire with a dagger isn't very fun. It was totally worth it though, because once I had replenishable arrows, I was off to shoot zombies in the face. And this has to be the most rewarding fighting system to snipe with a bow in my experience. A juicy sound effect, combined with enemies staggering, and a chunk of HP off their bar to let you know. And that got him. Admittedly, it hasn't helped when I get to most bosses, because they're either too fast or too many to kill with just the bow. But then again, the fire demon couldn't touch me. And the fact that I've been able to get away with prioritizing a bow over the giant swords the game is known for is a testament to the level of freedom the player has to build a character's playstyle. And that plus branching narrative paths based on how you did or didn't react to the NPCs is easily my favorite thing about the game. And on that note, the world building is fantastic. This is one of those rare games where I believe the world implied by the level design. Most everything about the scale and positioning of the architecture feel like places that might be made by human civilization rather than a game designer. And all the item descriptions fit together to tell the story of this world in a way that sounds like an archaeologist unearthing past relics. Dark Souls 3 is the only game on this list I haven't finished, but even as I continue to wander through the prisons, I'm already convinced it deserves this spot.
Number one.
Like I said, I didn't get to a lot of games I wanted to play this year, in part because the games I did play were so darn long. So what tops meticulously building redundant structures in Dragon Quest Builders, or Fire Emblem with its overly punishing permadeath for time spent on one game?
Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
Oh yeah! After Skyward Sword, I wasn't hyped for another 3D Zelda, but this trailer comes along, ditching so many outdated traditions and highlighting features I was super excited for, so I thought maybe this could work out after all. Now, despite being a year late with tons of minor spoilers, this is still the most fun in a game I had all year. For starters, one thing about Ocarina of Time that always stuck with me was using the hookshot to get on top of buildings in Kakariko Village. I've wanted a Zelda that allowed me to freely do that anywhere ever since. Breath of the Wild not only gives me that freedom, it develops into a tentpole mechanic. Link can run, jump, climb, be propelled up, and glide to the top of any building, tower, mountain, or creature. Once he's up there, he can enjoy a gorgeous view, set waypoints, tag from above, and then he can teleport, glide away, or board down in style. All of these logically restricted in different ways to ensure the game isn't a cakewalk, but the player has the option to upgrade at any time simply by exploring the game's world. This is also my favorite combat system in the franchise. Countering with a shield has more straightforward timing than ever, and all of the rune abilities have better utility than most iconic dungeon items in the franchise. Breath of the Wild's archery might not be as fun as Dark Souls', but it's darn close. Plus, between the free-fall slow-mo attacks and headshot chime, it's at least the more cinematic of the two. All that said, nothing beats a massive fireworks show for tossing a broken weapon in an enemy's face. Finally, from the photographic bestiary which doubles as a radar, to the shrines and Koroks, to Link's memories, I just love what a massive collectathon this game was. And yes, I love the Koroks. They have so many different types of hiding places that test your situational awareness, and their micro-challenges make them the most engaging collectible side quest in any game I've played. As a whole, the shrines are one of my favorite dungeons aesthetically and thematically, and as individuals, I'll take designated puzzle spaces that give me warp points and a guaranteed upgrade item over random caves or grottos any day. I do wish the Divine Beasts were longer, but I still think the arc from entering a region with a Divine Beast to the moment the champion bequeaths their power to you is one of the best find, enter, defeat dungeon arcs in the franchise. Breath of the Wild admittedly has so much potential to build on, and it's a question of when, not if, it's surpassed. But until then, like Super Mario Odyssey, this is taking another game's place on my top 10 favorite games. Wow. I really am a Nintendo fanboy, aren't I? I'm gonna eat up my game so I can talk about other stuff next year. Fortunately, now that this is done, I can finally move forward into 2019. All things considered, I had a blast in 2018, but I definitely could have been more productive. I managed to hammer this video out in a couple of weeks, so while I might not be hitting the ground running, at least I've got some momentum. I really want to produce some videos and get a proper schedule going. Anyways, hope you like this list. Fanboy or not, I tried to make it entertaining. For now, I leave you with another teaser for the next countdown. Hoping your 2019 is awesome. Bye.